questioning everything today. Anja Fröhlich? Fröhlich?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
Change coach, transformational coach, big changes, bold moves, courageous shifts. How are you today?
I'm very good, Greg. It's very early in the morning here in Cambodia, but yeah.
Oh, that's why did I forget you were in Cambodia? That's so cool. So she said
Yeah.
good morning when we got on the podcast, and I was like, did I miss my whole day of work? No, that's really cool. So how's the weather out there right now?
We have rainy season at the moment. So we have heavy storms, lots of rain. So right now the sky is super cloudy. And you have to be prepared as soon as you get out. You're under like pouring rain. But yeah, it's still
Really?
hot. It's still hot. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad I asked because I thought just, it's summertime here. It might be summertime over there. No,
Yeah.
rainy
Yeah.
season.
It's rainy
Okay.
season.
So talk to me a little bit about this Raw You community that you've founded. I know that's your online Facebook group. And what you do is you help people to make the changes that they're afraid to make.
Yes, exactly. And it's almost kind of a passion project of mine because it actually is a great mirror of what I have been through in the past year, basically since I started having a coach. So I started having my own coach like 1 year ago, and yeah, I mean that was my state of mind. I was always looking for something, like for my bigger meaning, for a meaning in this world, for being able to serve in a way, but I had no idea how. So I was basically stumbling around for 20 years trying to figure it out. And yeah, and then, I started working with my coach, and we did a lot of very interesting, very deep exercises. And for example, we worked on clarity for 3 months only. So only figuring out what is it that I like to do, that I'm fired up about, that is important to me, like what is aligned with my values. And then there was a whole process coming after that. And what I have been through in the past year is basically what I have heard from a lot of, especially women, that they are facing the same struggles. And out of that like journey and experience, that idea was born to create a community where women especially, but also men, I mean, it's not excluded, can come together, and share their struggles and try to like overcome them and work on them.
That is beautiful. I think that everything is better in community.
It
And I
is, yeah.
saw that RAW was capitalized.
Yeah.
Is that an acronym?
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
It's not. Good question. It's not.
I was thinking the real authentic warrior. I don't know.
Oh, that's beautiful. Maybe I can use that.
You can take it. Royalty free.
Okay, cool. No, it's not an acronym, but I think it's at the core of what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because what I discovered, even with all the clarity work that I was working on, and finally, getting a glimpse of what it really is that I want to focus on and that I'm very passionate about. Even then, I was like hitting walls and barriers so often. Yeah. So basically what happened, I just realized that there is so much like emotional healing work to be done, in order to get there. So even if you have the clarity, it's not a given that you actually are able to implement that just, with everything going on in your head. And raw for me means, finally becoming who you really are. And yes. I think like most of the people are not even aware that we are just, playing some kind of, like pattern, and that we are not really the personalities that we are meant to be. So yeah, that was a big learning for me.
Yeah, it's really funny. We think we know. So my experience is that your talent can take you where your character can't hold you. And when you were talking about doing that deep work,
yeah,
if I don't know who I am and I succeed, I'm not successful. I'm just
it's
setting
so true.
myself up to fail.
Yeah,
And
it's so true.
if you don't work on that deeper inside, that removing the root of the problem as to why you're bearing the fruit you're bearing, because a lot of people have been cut and they're walking around bleeding on the people that didn't cut them, but they won't heal the wound.
Yeah,
Just
it's
keep
so
bleeding on
true.
people.
Yeah, it's so true.
So I'm really glad that you said that, though, because I think I love that this is your purpose and this is what lights you up, because I think this is something the world needs. And I believe that all of us in the coaching community that we're in share a similar journey or a
Yes.
similar end goal for our clients, and that's just to see them transform. It's just the seasoning that we put on it for our particular brand, right?
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. Oftentimes it's the same, like it's the same purpose or the same objective. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you hire a coach, you're really just paying for accountability. It's like paying for a trainer. I have a gym in my garage. I only used it when I paid my trainer every month. It's my gym. It's not like I'm paying him to
That
use his
sounds
gym,
crazy, Greg.
right? It's
It does.
crazy. But
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't we accountable to ourselves? Why can't we hold ourselves accountable? Why aren't we enough for ourselves, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I saw that you're also a photographer and
Yeah.
this is your passion project. So my question would be, do you take before and after photos?
You have so many great ideas. I should hire you actually as my chief strategist or something. I I haven't thought about it yet, but yeah, maybe that would be amazing. Maybe that would be so great.
It would.
Although you
Yeah.
know what, I have to say, like coming from these coaching calls already within like one session, you can see such a transformation. So I have to be very
Yes.
quick with my camera if I want to take like before and after
Yeah, you
photos.
start off, hey, we're going to take a picture right now with you in this state. Don't smile.
Exactly. Yeah,
Come to me
that's
in
what
the exact energy. Yes. Do you have any? I know I look up to a few coaches. I look up to a lot of inspirational people, and a lot of the people we look up to in this industry, most people follow the same people. Do you have your set of influences, people that you have influenced you to take this road?
Yeah, definitely. What I have to say, so I'm German. I'm from Europe, and I think there is a completely different mindset in terms of development, self-development, and having a coach. When you look at the US and Canada, and then when you look at Germany and Europe, and just a second, and then so what happened for me, I wasn't aware of this whole self-development industry until like 1.5 years ago, basically. And then I stumbled upon, like all of my friends, my family, I've never had any conversation in terms of having a coach, like personal growth. So that's very interesting for your listeners to know. So
Yes.
coaching is a concept that's not very much on the agenda in Europe. And then I watched the Netflix documentary of Tony Robbins. And I don't know whether you have seen that, probably yes.
I am not your guru.
Yes, exactly. And that's when it all started. Like I went into that documentary, and right after that I was sold, and I hired my coach, and yeah.
That documentary, just the first 3 minutes,
I know.
wow. Like I
I still
love to see
remember.
those things. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
don't smile, you're gonna fuck it all up. And
Yeah.
he laughed, and it was like, whoa.
I know. I know.
I know that Tony Robbins has his ways. He has his methods, and one of them is the foul language. You don't see it when you see the little clips of him on Facebook or on TV or something. But when you go to one of his events or you get to see him in person, he will say something that will just tear you out of where you are and bring you back to reality, back to the moment.
I
He'll
can
wake
only
you up.
imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. I haven't been at any of his like live events, so
I
I'm
have
so
not
excited.
yeah, I have not either, but I plan on it when they get to be in person again. I just want to experience that one time, meet
Yeah.
the guy, something. But I I'm from Europe as well. I wasn't born there, but I grew up there in France. And I
Mm,
guess I never realized, because I was ages 5, 6 to 11.
yeah.
We don't talk about coaching at that age,
Yeah.
but
Usually
my
not.
my family's never been the type for self growth, development, coaching, any of that. So
Yeah.
I didn't know about coaching or really the value of it until about a decade ago. And it started with me just kind of questioning everything, ironically,
Yeah.
and hearing all these motivational quotes and thinking, it's not that simple. Life isn't that easy. You can't
Yeah.
just change your mind. Lo and behold, here it is, a decade later. And I want to say 2 years into my venture, I changed my mind. That's literally the only thing that changed between the man I used to be and the man I am today is I changed my mind and I took action to become something different. And I didn't give up no matter what.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fear I had to face in this process. And I imagine if you've just come into the coaching community a year and a half ago, learning about coach and then taking on being a coach, there's got to be a story. There's got to be something you've overcome, a fear you've overcome that has sparked this.
Yeah. I mean, like honestly, like what I said in the very beginning, you know, that it took me like 20 years to figure this out. I think I was just tired of searching all the time. You know, I was, you know, yesterday I read a quote and it said, our successes are most of the time our biggest limiting beliefs.
Mm,
And, you know, like I have always been a very independent woman. So I always worked, I always earned my own money. I was never dependent on anyone. I was always traveling the world and working in different countries. And, you know, like now, like talking to these women, and most of them are professionals, it's always the same story. And it's so aligned with what I have been through. So, you know, people are getting successful and are getting good at what they are doing. And then at one point, they don't even believe they can do anything else. But
mm,
still, they don't, you know, feel like, is this everything? You know, like they're always searching for something bigger and some bigger meaning. And a lot of us and a lot of them, like the women that I work with, have very visionary ideas and are very purpose driven, which is amazing.
mm.
So all of them want to do something good. And I mean, that's not a given, right? There are so many people who don't even think about that. But then they're so like, they're limiting themselves so much with like issues of confidence and maybe I should just be normal. You know, everybody tells me I have such a good job. Maybe I should just stay there, you know, and this is, I mean, this was so resonating with me. And this was basically my path, like the last 20 years. So I was always, you know, making it work. And it always like, I call myself a very lucky person, but still I was so unhappy inside of me, you know, like, yes, everything worked out. I never really, honestly, I never really had to struggle. And I know, you know, this, like all of our stories are different. I really call myself lucky because I didn't had any big struggles in life, but still, you know, I didn't feel like this is the real me and this is everything I can do. So I think I was just tired of, you know, looking and being unsteady and searching for the next big thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, you know, like I'm coming right now, I'm going through a divorce, and my husband, he told me, Anja, you know, I have the feeling nothing can really make you happy. Like no matter where we go, no matter what you do, I have the feeling not me, but also like nothing else. And that was really an eye opener to me. And yeah, I think he was right. He was right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, but that's where gratitude comes in and being
Yeah,
content
exactly.
with where you are. But I do
Yeah.
understand there's always this, I think it's just our personalities as coaches. The purpose that we were called for was to help other people out of a place that we've been. But the reason I think that we particularly feel like there's never enough is because we came with a such a high calling and purpose that
Yeah, that's interesting.
we're not to stop until we've reached the entire earth, or at least as many as we can.
Yeah.
And there's a world of people that could use exactly what you deliver and
Yeah.
only will get it from you because you're the only person that has the experience that they'll listen to. See,
Yeah,
your
it's very
your
true.
clients may not listen to a word I say because they don't resonate with me. I haven't been where they've been, but I think that's really interesting. Never satisfied. So that
Yeah,
had to be an eye opener. You just said
it
that.
was.
It's an eye opener. what was that moment? Because it all happened. It happens to us all. Sorry, I can't talk today. My brain is off and I can't get it to switch back on. What was the moment when you started to question everything? Everything that you know to be true, when you started questioning it?
I think I know exactly what the moment was. The interesting thing was it was a long time ago.
Oh,
So you know, like my parents are both in the military, so I came from a very like strict household, and
yes.
there I always felt like there are like huge expectations, and you know, there is a clear path that you follow. Like once you are out of high school, you do this and this and this.
Mm,
And I think the moment I left high school, I still went into that path that I thought was expected from me.
mm,
But I think I started realizing, you know, now I am responsible for my life and nobody else is. So now I kind of have that freedom, but I was still so stuck in, you know, like dealing and um, conforming with these expectations that I thought were there. And so I always had these two forces, you know, like fighting with each other, and I couldn't figure it out until like 1 year ago. So
mm.
yeah, I was very, very much driven by being like by conformity and, you know, getting that validation from others that what I'm
Yeah.
doing is okay and enough and good and great, you know, and perfect. And so yeah, it took me a long time to figure this out. Yeah.
Yeah, that outside validation and just the scars of our childhood. We are
Yeah.
taught one way in our household, we're taught another way in school, we're taught another way at work. And then we get to be adults and responsible for ourselves. And then we realize that everything we've been taught has been wrong. Like everyone set us up for failure. And now we have to
So
unlearn
true.
everything and find what works for ourselves. So I'm trying to figure out where to pivot from here.
Greg, wait, let me, because I was thinking you want to say something that's why didn't want to interrupt, but um, just as you say that, you know, these, you know, like ideas that we get from being a child and getting all these influences from our parents and society at large. It's interesting that you are saying that, because right now I'm working on setting up like a group program for women, because I think community is something that's so important to me. And this is basically, or by the way, something that I figured out with my coach, James, that one of the big values for me is community. And so one of the first pillars and modules of that group program is healing these childhood wounds. Because most of the time, you know, when we are small, like something is happening, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
gets us into a pattern that's deviating from what like who we really are. But we are still taking on that pattern, you know, in order to like meet our basic needs, you know, of being loved and accepted and seen. Um, and we actually only figure that out if we are lucky, you know, that we are still carrying on these patterns until we are adults. If we are very well in, like, if we are lucky, you know, finding a coach or, you know, reading something about that. A lot of people don't know that. So, you know, these like childhood healing, emotional healing coming from childhood experiences is, for me, it was really key, you know, of
Mm-hmm.
a understanding that who I am and the struggles I have is not me. Because people usually think, you know, I'm just screwed. I can't make it work. I'm always doubting myself. Like, what's wrong with me? But
Yeah.
this is not us. This is, you know, a mask that we put on when we were small in
Mm-hmm.
order to meet our needs. And it's so interesting because so many people are not even aware of that. And I wasn't. So yeah, this is like one of the first pillars of my program. So that was really interesting that you were saying that.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned it because that was the last thing I read today before our call was this post.
Yeah.
And I did my research on you long ago, but just scrolling through Facebook, I saw this post of you starting the program. So that was where I was trying to go, was to ask, how do you plan on getting them in the community to get their breakthroughs. So we start with the childhood wounds. Is there a process that you take them through, or are you still developing this as you go?
Well, I have to say I'm very lucky to have found a coach that I can work on these things with. So I'm so impressed by what he's doing,
Yeah.
like in terms of emotional healing, and he is taking me through some pretty deep stuff. So most of the time in the sessions, we end up both crying. So like, it's a process of deep meditation. It starts with meditation, and then you basically go back and try to tap on your subconscious, because this is where these old patterns and experiences are stored.
Yeah.
And then what's happening, you are recalling like one of the first memories that you have, that put you into that position to pivot your own personality in order to get that love. And then what's happening, you are just trying to observe it. You first feel into it. So what was the feeling that came up, with you being in that situation? And then you are trying to get yourself out of it as an external observer, just seeing, without judging, without emotional connection, trying to, define like what was happening in that moment. And then, and then basically what you have to do, you have to make peace with that situation that caused you all that pain. So you're basically reframing it for you. So you are looking at, okay, I told myself the story that in that situation I wasn't enough, so that's why I had, like, this person had to do this and this and this. But then coming from a adult perspective and starting to realize, like that this is just something we do in order to be seen, but also to realize that there is a very compassionate part about the other person, most of the times our parents, because they are coming from a point of view where they most of the time just want the best for us, and they don't know better. They are hurt themselves. They are running around with with these wounds that were never healed. And especially our parent generation, like who was talking about coaching, who was talking about emotional healing? Nobody. So like starting to reframe it and look at it, maybe even as a parent, it's so much easier, from a compassionate angle, and trying to reframe it. And then you can restart and reboot your own beliefs that came out of that situation. So that's that's like a whole process, but it's very intense.
I mean, I've been through this process actually a couple times, and I love that you said it's easier as a parent, because I remember growing up, my mom told me one day that I would grow up with my son, and I told her I was grown. My son's 19 now, and I finally understood like a year or two ago what she meant by growing up with him, because I literally grew up with him. But the compassion would not have come had I not had my own children, because then I understand it. And my son actually said this to my mom recently, that, and well, he told me again. He told me after he told her, but she told me that he said it, and it kind of like really hit. He he said that he thought back to what I was doing at his age. His mom was pregnant with him, and he, his mom had him.
Yeah.
She was pregnant with his sister.
Okay.
And at that age, I was taking care of all that. And he said, thinking about having to do all of that at this age gives me a new appreciation for my father. And that's what
that's
he didn't have
beautiful.
to have a kid to feel that. But me, like, just the stuff they got into, the trouble, the things they did when they talked back to me, all the things that I did to my mom that she hated, I'd call her and I'd be like, I'm so sorry.
I know. I know. Yes. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I love that you touched on that, the childhood wounds, because I've never really heard of that process being done outside of a counselor's office. But when I did it, it was called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprogramming.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful, but they have you hold these things and they buzz and from hand to hand, and then you have headphones on and it beeps from ear to ear. And they take you through this process of your earliest memory with this emotion. And well, for me, it was like all these things come flying in of all these people
Yeah.
that made me feel this way. And he said, as they come, tell me what the first thought that comes to mind, first thought that comes to mind. And we're crying, and it was crazy. And when the flashes stopped coming, it was one picture, one movie of me sitting with my mom and my dad in the living room. And that was like the last time I was happy. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, I didn't even realize that that's where it all stemmed from. I'm over here snapping at people for something I don't even remember why. And what I like to compare this process to is, let's say you have a desktop computer and you have files all over the place. And life is just a mouse running through clicking, right? It's going to click on the wrong thing. And you're not going to know why it's there, what's happening, but it's open, and now you got to figure out how to close it, right?
Yeah.
What this process does is it takes all of these files, folders, or memories, right? Trauma, and it puts them in the correct folder. That way, when you click on it, you know exactly where it came from, why it's there, and okay, thank you for showing me that happened. You can go back in your folder now. So it takes it all and it organizes it and it puts it where it's supposed to go, because trauma is essentially a messy desktop. And at some point, something got saved on your desktop that wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to go in a folder. And because you were in a rush, or because you were not in the place you should have been in, or it happened in such a traumatic way, it didn't go where it was supposed to. Trauma is huge. I love that you're talking about healing those childhood wounds, because so many people try to work on the surface stuff, the stuff they can see. And it's like trying to paint a turd. You can't, I mean, it's still going to be a turd. I don't know what the solution would be if you were trying to paint a turd and no, you just flushed the toilet, right? I don't know where I was going with that one, but we'll change.
Yeah.
In your program, do you find it a challenge coming up with your content, or do you know exactly where you're going to get it from?
For me, the challenge, so how I started is basically, putting myself out there more often. So I like, on Facebook, I posted a lot about like my history and my story and how I got here. And then I just started realizing that, like the posts with the most resonance, like with the most like honest resonance, were the ones that were deeply personal. And a lot of women would reach out to me saying, Anja, this so much aligns or resonates with me. I mean, I struggle with the same stuff. Like what you're doing is so inspirational, and all that journey, like the whole journey. And so what I started doing is I was kind of interviewing these women, with some questions. And then what happened, so I developed a kind of questionnaire. And then what happened, I got so many responses. And I asked them to point out, like, if there would be one thing you could like work on with a coach, what would it be? And I gave them like 6 choices. And basically it were always the same 3 things. That was very interesting, because these 3 things and pillars were basically the things that I had to work on in the past year, like exactly the same. So the first one was like limiting beliefs. And this is where the childhood trauma and the healing comes in. Yeah. And the second one was just creating a vision and getting clarity about like what it is that I want to provide in life and how do I want to feel, and what is my legacy to look like, like what am I really, really passionate about, and what is the path I want to go? Because a lot of people are just, jumping from one job to the next, but they don't have a bigger picture. And then they wonder, like after 10 years, okay, so what have I achieved other than earning an income, like, yeah. So that was the second big pillar. And then the third one was just the implementation, getting and doing something and taking the first steps. So basically like getting these 3 pillars and the 3 bigger modules of my program in place was pretty easy. Filling all of that with life and coming up with something that's easy and to follow and kind of a process is another story. And, you know, and I think you can relate to that, but like, you know, there again comes in my perfectionism, you know, and, you know, wanting it all. And I think, you know, we have to remember that nobody knows what 100% looks like, you know, others than us who want to make it 200%. So I think at one point you just have to stop and, you know, be aware of the fact that you want to make it as easy as possible to be followed and not as many information as possible. So, you know, I had a phase where I was reading that book and that book and that book and that book, and I found all of these concepts so interesting. So I wanted to kind of get it in, but then you get overwhelmed. You get nothing done. It gets difficult to follow. Nobody will understand it. And so, yeah, this is where I'm right now. So creating the modules and, you know, dealing with my own inner demons.
You know, it's really funny that you mentioned that, because that's exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing to do is to keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's not how much more can you put on the plate. Sometimes it's about how much can you take off the plate.
Yes. Yeah.
No is a complete sentence, and we can say yes but we really have to know our limits when it comes to how much we can take on before we lose our minds. And there was something you said that made me think, oh, it's an African proverb. Everyone has been a child, but no one's been an adult.
Yes.
And that made me think everyone is walking through this life trying to figure it out. Our parents did the best they could with what they had, and they left scars. I did the best I could with what I have, and even though I tried my hardest not to do what was done to me, I still left the same scars. Because sometimes I open my mouth and my mother, brother, sister, aunt, they all come out at some point. But we have to remember that children are sponges. They only soak up what we give them. We can tell them all day to do something. We can tell them, and I say children are like, people are sponges, period. You can tell them all day what to do, but if you're not modeling it, this is why servant leadership works so well.
Yeah.
If you're not modeling it, I don't want to follow you. And that's why there's people that you can reach that I can't, and people that I can reach that you can't. And then there's people that we could both reach because they're open-minded. Now,
so true.
Thank you so much for sharing that all with me. I'm now curious to see where your program goes and how it goes for you.
Me too.
And I love that you're doing research. Research is probably one of the most gratifying things for me, because I'm curious and I love to I love to prove myself wrong. So I have these assumptions, and then I go ask questions, and I find out that what I thought is nothing like what reality is. And like you said, you just noticed that there's these 3 things, and they're the 3 things that you had to deal with. And it sort of completes that circle, right?
It does, yeah.
So is there a question, quote, or saying that keeps you going or inspires you?
Oh my goodness, there are so many. There's so many. I can't really think of something right now, you know, but just, you know, like what you talked about in the beginning about that Netflix documentary and about Tony Robbins. And, you know, he has some things that he says that, you know, that are always, you know, in our heads, and like people who follow him, like they always have these sayings of him. And I think I can't really remember the quote itself, but he's saying something about, it's in the moment of our decision that, you know, like kind of the truth reveals, or the big change happens. And you talked about decision in the beginning, like at one point you just decided, you know, you want that shift. And I think, you know, just knowing that it's in our power to decide, you know, and once we fully decide to go for it, then we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. And, once I decided, I focus on that one thing. And for me, it was photography first. You mentioned that before. And I started, really going out there and creating my own projects and doing the first steps. Everything kind of changed, because with every single step, you start gaining more confidence and, in putting yourself out there. And suddenly people are coming at you and they're giving you validation. But, at one point, I think you need that in order to, move forward. But becoming more confident in these things. So yeah, I think the quote about the decisiveness and being decisive and in what you want to do, and then just go for it and take full action. Yeah.
I love that. I'm actually looking it up right now because I know what you're talking about, but now it's bugging me.
I think it's in the moment of your great decision.
It is in the moment of decision that your destiny is shaped.
Yes, thank you. That's it.
Yes.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that is beautiful. It is in the moment of decision that your destiny is shaped. And that's that date with destiny thing he has, the retreat. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Neville Goddard?
No.
So he's one of the fathers, I don't know, one of the founders, one of the first people to write about the law of attraction. But adding this layer of assumption, so the law of assumption, you change your conception of yourself and you'll automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself and they will confirm the change. And you said that validation. You go for it. You take that action. And, James says this all the time. Action cures anxiety. Decision.
So true. Yes. Yeah.
How many times have we wanted something and then we made the decision to get it and we got exactly what we wanted, be it good or bad? That's the flip side of this coin is if I decide that I'm having a bad day and I just start acting in that manner that I'm having a bad day, I will have a bad day.
Yeah.
Even if good things happen, I've decided that today is a bad day. You don't have bad days. You have bad 5 minutes. You have bad moments. You have a bad experience, but you can choose to change that at any moment. And that's the beautiful part about life in general, is just the power of choice.
The power of choice. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting that you're saying that. Yeah.
Some people don't even know that they have a choice. And I want to say that some people won't even acknowledge that they have a choice, because then that means they have to change.
Yep. And that's scary, and that's work. And yeah, so true.
And you have to question everything you've ever known.
Yeah.
Including the truth, because it's all subject to revision.
Yeah.
My quote was, do one thing every day that scares you. And it's evolved into, or that was Eleanor Roosevelt. It's evolved into, if anything scares you, face it head on so that nothing stands in your way, because you make that decision and you take the action. Fear is a mile wide and it's a mile high, but it's only paper thin. And once you bust through it, then it's just muscle memory from there. You're just repeating the action. And now it's not scary anymore. Now it's
it becomes a habit. Yeah, it becomes a habit. Yeah. So true. Yeah.
We're always battling with our subconscious, right? Because our subconscious is, we have that reptilian brain that programs whatever we are doing so that we don't have to think about it, so that we can survive and live. Just like, I mean, could you imagine if you had to think of all the bodily functions that you had to do, like making your heart beat, remembering to breathe?
Yeah, no.
Just so much that's automated, but just like in the body, it is in the mind. And we don't even realize that we're run by our subconscious because it's subconscious.
Yep.
So that process you were talking about earlier with finding the root and digging it out, so many times I think that we miss that forgiveness aspect. And forgiveness is huge. You cannot move on to the next level until you've dealt with, accepted, and processed whatever hurts have happened to you.
Mhm, mhm.
On that note, is there a question that you think everybody should be asking themselves?
Honestly, I think for me, the question that everybody should ask themselves is the person that I am today really the person that I'm supposed to be? Or the one, the real me? Is that my core? Is that my true core? Or am I something else? Maybe, and
Yes.
not being aware of it. So yeah.
Mm, that's good. That's really good. Is that person that I am today the person I really want to be?
Yeah,
That
that
goes right in line with what we just said.
it is.
You have to be the change you want to see in the world. And I never understood that quote, but it goes right along with that song, Man in the Mirror. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm begging him or asking him to make a change.
Mhm.
You change your perception and you change your reality.
Yeah.
Nothing changes in the world except for us. And then the world seems to get better. Isn't that funny how that happens?
It's amazing. But you know what? Like the scary thing is so many people are not aware of that.
That is
And
very
you
scary.
know, when we look at relationships, for example, I mean, you probably heard about the term co-creation. And so, like we are creating our reality. What you just said is basically that
Okay,
concept.
that's what that is. Okay.
So a lot of people are, going into therapy, into couple therapy, or are in a relationship where they always are pointing their fingers on their partner,
Mhm. Yes.
while what it all comes down to is us. Like when we are triggered by something that our partner is doing, it's us. It's something that is unresolved within us.
Yeah.
Either it's something that we can very much relate to because we had an experience, or somebody that we deeply cared of, showed that same behavior, or it's something that we are subconsciously aware of, that this is us basically, like we are so much alike. And then we are pointing these fingers, and you said that earlier as well. So I think, it's so important also for relationships. And I mean, relationships and community is basically the basis of our lives, right? To
Yes.
be aware of that fact. It's always us. It's never the other person.
And you really have to be careful when you're talking about people or complaining or gossiping. You're telling more about yourself than you are about
Yes.
other people. And I find
Yeah.
myself knowing that fact, talking about someone, and in the middle of it, stopping myself like, for the grace of God, there go I. I am that. I am.
Mhm. I am. Yeah.
There's, it's funny that you mentioned that because there was somewhere I was going to go with that and it just left me.
That's okay.
It's there. It's right there. It's on the tip of my tongue.
We will come back.
Oh, if I point a finger at someone, I have three pointing back at me.
I love that. Yeah,
Now,
that's so cool.
I was in a relationship. Actually, I was in two relationships that were very toxic.
Mhm.
And I walked around talking so much crap about these women
Yeah.
and how they do this, how they do that, how they don't do this, they don't do that, only focused on their faults. I was only focused on my faults too. And I've always been hard on myself, beating myself up, trying to improve. I brought that into the relationship. The relationship was what it was because of me. My
So
life
true.
didn't
Yeah.
change for the better until I admitted that everything that I saw was my fault. Everything good that I saw was my fault too, but I was only focused on the bad. So the the time that I noticed it was my ex said she didn't want to be with someone that wasn't doing anything with their life because I said I don't want to go back to college. I just don't
Wow,
see the
that's
value.
so interesting seeing you today. I mean, such a difference. Wow.
Right? And
Yeah.
yeah, that was 8 years ago. That was about the time I started my journey of
Yeah.
self-introspection and digging out those roots. And The very same day, I went up to the school. I owed a balance from the last time I was in college. I paid that balance off. I spoke with the counselor. The counselor, we worked out a whole 2-year plan for my associate's degree, got it in stone. I registered for school. I took the first, I want to say the first class was PE because it's easy, right? I took PE. I start in August, I think, or July or August. It was April at the time. And I come home and I give her the papers and I say, I'm signed up. I got my 2-year plan. Okay. And she got mad at me. She said, how the fuck do you just do that? You just go out and do things and you make them happen. And I'm like, you just answered your question.
Yeah,
Looking back and looking at where she's at now,
yeah,
I realized that it wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about her. That was eye-opening and that was disturbing at the same time. Because I don't know how many times I've changed who I am because someone else has told me that what I was doing was wrong, or someone else told me to stay the safe route.
oh
Don't
yeah,
take the
yeah,
leap.
that's
Don't
a
do
great
that
perspective.
because,
Yeah,
and you know what it is? It's either they're telling you don't do it because they're afraid, or they're telling you to do something that they never had the guts to do.
yes.
And it comes from our parents, it comes from our siblings, it comes from distant cousins, it comes from everyone around us. And we have to really be careful what we're filtering through to our raw selves, right? Our real authentic warriors within. I love that. You got to use that.
I will promise.
So my wife said this before I got on the call because I've been in a funk for like the last week or so.
Mm.
Nothing's wrong. Everything is actually really good. But I don't know if you can relate to this whole self-sabotage. When things are good, I don't feel like I deserve them. So at any moment, something's going to go wrong. I might as well make it happen now.
Yeah,
I don't consciously
you're
think
waiting
to
for
do
it.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
happens to be that subconscious pattern that's going on. So she said, I said, I really don't want to do this today. I don't want to do anything today.
Oh,
And she goes, that means you need it. And she's right.
that's so beautiful.
I needed it. I know I needed it. And it's just a testament to, if you don't feel like doing it, that's exactly when you need to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because feeling good isn't the point, right? If it was all about feeling good, mothers would not give birth and we wouldn't be here.
Good point. Good point.
I mean, let's just take it all the way back.
But
So
you know, this is actually, Greg, this is tying in with what you said earlier about so many people, you know, don't even want to become aware of the fact, you know, that they have a choice, because if they do, they have to change. And in that change, you know, like change means you are going somewhere with your life or your personality that you have never done, like never been before. So it's something completely new. That's why it's so scary and so hard. Like it's difficult to do all of that. You know, we have never done that before. It's something completely new for us. That's why it's scary. And that's why most of the time you feel like, I don't want to do that. You know, I just want to sit on my couch and, you know, do whatever, like what I'm good at, like, you know, what's easy.
Stay in the comfort zone.
Yes, stay in the comfort zone. So
the place that dreams go to die.
yes, this is actually right, because you always have to be aware of why you are doing that, right?
Yes.
Like Simon Sinek has that book, Start With Why, and I think he's mostly talking about companies, but I think this is so true for us personally as well. You know, like you have to always, you know, when it becomes difficult, just always remind yourself of that big, like North Star, that big vision. Like, what do you want to achieve in your life? How do you want to be remembered? And I think, you know, at that point, you will be able to jump over that, you know, feeling, oh, I want to stay in my comfort zone, and because you have such a big vision, so we have to go for it.
We both have a really big vision, and I love that you mentioned that, because our coach James always says, if you're not excited to get up in the morning, you need to dial up your why, dial up the intensity. Your why is not strong enough if you are not excited about life. And I have to revisit that section of the course that he has where it told me to make the vision, because I forget sometimes why I'm doing what I'm doing. I forget the mark I want to leave. because the subconscious, it takes 30 to 90 days to break that cycle. 30 days to break a habit, another 30 days to instill a new one, and 30 days to set it in stone, and then 200 times of repeating that afterwards for it to really be there. So
Crazy.
the majority of a year, you're doing something to
Yeah.
change. If you've ever looked through your Facebook memories, have you ever noticed that on a specific day, you do the same thing, think the same thing, or feel the same thing?
Not yet.
Check it
Maybe I
out.
should. Yeah.
Go through
What
your
is it for
memories.
you? What is it for you?
So for me, around certain times of the year, I'm feeling the revelation, the motivation, or the down, feeling down, not
That's
understanding
interesting.
why I can't sleep, or
Yeah.
it's the same thing every year. So when I go through
Wow.
and I'm looking and I'm like, holy cow, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like I'm stuck in a hamster wheel,
Yeah.
but it's that awareness. I love that your program talks about, you said, the limiting beliefs, the North Star, and the action, right?
Mhm.
Mine is ABC, awareness, beliefs, commitment. Make
Yeah.
you aware of where you are, where you want to be, where you're at now, and how can we bridge that gap? We challenge your belief system, what you believe about yourself, the world, other people. And then once you show that to people and they know where they want to go, they know what that future self is, we get them committed to that future self. It's the same thing we're feeding everyone. We just flavor it
Definitely.
differently.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's all
So
chicken.
true. It's all, yeah, it's all. And you know, one other thought that I had about the vision that you were talking about, that you have to revise, that part of the course. Like I heard from several people now that this is actually something you have to write down. And then you have to, not every day, but you know, like a few times a week, just read through it. Like always remind yourself, because the more often you think, you know, your thoughts are actually creating your reality at one point. So, you know, it also helps you get into the right energy. So really writing it down, like James and I, like as I told you, like we had that long process. So I know this exercise like in and out, and I have written it down, and it's incredible. It's amazing to read that, you know.
Have you noticed a difference between writing it down physically and typing it?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely need to write it down by hand.
When I first did it, I typed it.
Okay.
My why was not strong because there was no connection. It was this.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I sat and wrote it out, it started to resonate a little more. And I probably should go back and revisit it again, because lo and behold, my subconscious has taken over and I've forgotten again.
And maybe it's, you also want to adjust it, you know. I don't know when you did the exercise, maybe a year ago, but
It's been
almost
exactly
a
a
year.
year.
Yeah, it must have been. So you know, like it would be great to just look at it, and maybe, you know, some things have shifted and you have higher, you know, goals even, or other goals, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was living in a place of limiting beliefs. Even though I've come so far,
Yeah,
I still have so much more to go.
I know.
And
Same here.
you look at a video of yourself years ago and you see there's no confidence, or you can't look at a camera, or you don't have what you have now, and it really makes you see. I say you. I looked at a video of me 8 years ago when I came out of this, what they called the contract circle, where I got my contract. It was, I am a strong, courageous, passionate, loving man. Passionate, loving man. They told me I had to say passionate like that every time. I'm not feeling very passionate at this moment.
Yeah.
No, I'm just sleepy. So I looked at that video and I was just such a shell of a man. It's like night and day. My wife saw the video and she's like, that's like a whole different person. I don't even know if I would have talked to you then. Like, I wouldn't have talked to me either. As
Yeah.
a matter of fact, I didn't really talk to me at that point, but we have to really celebrate the victories along the way. Take time to like really celebrate how far we've come, look back, revisit those visions, revisit our goals. And if you journal, check back on your journal from a decade ago.
I know. well, I don't have a decade ago, but even, like 100 days or something, it's just amazing,
Oh
to see the
yeah.
change. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So are there two people that you know that are crushing their goals like you that you'd love to see on the show?
Two people. I told you, no, didn't I told you like about Doug? You have to interview Doug. Like that was my first person that I told you about.
Who was it?
Yeah, I think I introduced Doug to you. I said you have to interview Doug. No?
I
Because at one point you asked me, I think. I have to go back to our conversation, but I think I suggested Doug. No?
I think you yes. Yes, I remember now. It wasn't I remember. It was in a
I said James and Doug, I think. No?
James and oh, you did.
See, I did it already, right? But I can still, recommend to other persons. I mean,
Well, James has been recommended by someone else. I sent him the
oh,
invitation and
that's
he's so
obvious.
busy
Yeah.
that we haven't yet, but I've got an interview with him, but where he's interviewing and we're having this conversation.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
one
it's
that's in
not the same. Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
not the same. So James and Doug. So I've already done Doug's episode. He was episode 8.
good. It was episode 8. What am I?
I've lost count.
That's amazing. Do you really like this? Is actually interesting because I have the same situation now with with the women that kind of feel resonating with my message. Like there were so many of them, and I had the feeling I want to talk to all of them. Just and it's so inspiring.
Yes.
But it's a lot. Like
it is a lot. I'm at
yeah.
the point where I think I might hire somebody.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Really?
And I'm not even coaching. It's just I need help following up. I am great.
Yeah.
I'm a great starter, mediocre
Yes.
follow through. And
Same
what
here.
is finishing? Do you
Same
ever
here.
finish anything?
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting because especially as when you say it's about editing, I think it's so easy to hire someone to do that for you, right? Like to edit the whole thing that it makes sense in a good way.
My son offered to do it and gave him my old MacBook so he could.
Yeah.
And then I got him a job because he's gone a year without one. He graduated.
Okay. Yeah.
Never went for one. And he started getting stuck in that pattern and in that fear of I'm not going to be able to find something I like. No one's going to hire me. And
yeah, I know
a week ago today, I was having him apply for this staffing agency I used to work for. He applied that day. He got an interview, came in the next day, got the job, went to get his tuberculosis test, found out that he starts at the hospital that he was born in today. Aww. So he started today.
Oh my goodness. It's his birthday. Oh no,
it's his birthplace.
It's kind of. Yeah.
But he messaged me on his lunch break and he says, I didn't get the job that I wanted as dietary clerk. I got the janitor position.
Okay.
And I said, do you know how many janitor to CEO stories there are?
Oh, I love that.
He's in the process of building his brand because he's art and design.
Okay.
I will send you his Instagram. I want to say it's cxp.art for his art and spaffer.nickel for his mind that he got from me. So it's a lot of random videos, but he has like 3,000 or 4,000 followers right now. And
what is he? So what exactly is he doing? Like what would he offer?
So on that spaffer.nickel page, I wouldn't even go to it for you.
Yeah.
It's a something for the younger generation, the people that are just
what are you saying, Greg?
Well,
come on.
Much younger than us, like our children.
Okay, get it.
So I mean I find it funny, but it's a little on the extreme side at times.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that
that's how you win followers. Greg.
It really is. It really is. Having that, as Larry King said, a chip on your shoulder. The art, he drew a portrait of me on wood that I wanted to hang up somewhere in my house, but my wife is not having that because it looks creepy because the eyes follow you.
Ooh,
and it looks just like me. And he did this like 2 years ago. So I remember his first drawing was like stick figures. And he's come so far. And I feel bad for ever thinking that, oh man, he didn't get the drawing gene, forgetting that when I started drawing, I did stick figures too. I wasn't perfect when I started. That's a perfect example to how our perfectionism keeps us trapped, because we want it to be perfect. And James always says, sloppy imperfection, build the bus while you're on the highway.
Yeah. Did you ever read that book from The Growth Mindset, Carol Dweck? Did you ever read that?
I didn't, but I've heard of it.
It's very interesting because she's talking about how you can instill the growth mindset into your kids. And, you know, like thinking of them in terms of labels is so wrong, because it's all about, you know, appreciating the failure, you know, because from the failure you learn and get better. So there's a difference between growth mindset and what is the other one?
Lack mindset? No.
What is it? Oh, no, I forgot. Scarcity mindset. So growth and scarcity.
Yes.
And so it's very interesting because it talks about like, how can you instill that in your kids? And I think most of us are doing it wrong.
So, yeah. When I realized I was doing it wrong, parenting, when done right, looks like coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching done wrong looks like parenting.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I have to write that down.
Well, this has been an awesome interview. I will reach out to James again.
Please.
And, you know, I can tell Doug he's been referred again. It's time to come back on the show. But if you have two more, that would be great. Yeah, I loved interviewing him. I love our conversations. We keep each other accountable now every week to do something.
He told me about that. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get in on this too, I just want to create a community of accountability. I mean, we're already in that community. That's what we're there for in the Impact Mastery Blueprint, is to hold each other accountable and help each other out. And like you said, you notice that in James's community, that's a driving force in that whole thing, is the community.
And it got so much better. So much, it gets so much more intense, I think, and that's great to see. It's wonderful. Yeah.
And that's why I stick around. It's just the people that you see coming in, the help that you can give and get, and just watching other people grow is so satisfying.
I know it is. So Greg, if you think about interviews, do you only want to interview people from the program, or you are open to everyone?
I'm open to anyone in the world.
Okay, good, great. Okay, perfect. I have so many people.
Okay.
You have to decide whether you want to do that, because it's a lot of work, right? Every interview is.
Well, I'm thinking that I'm gonna start going live. So that would remove the whole editing piece. It would be ready. It'd be out there. People could watch it real time. They could put their comments, and I won't have to worry about how many videos I have to edit, because I think I'm like 10 or 11 videos in my backlog now that I have not edited.
Because honestly, Greg, I thought you just record and that's it, and then you put it online. So
I want to.
It was interesting to hear. Yeah.
I just have to put in the branding and the video stuff, but I'm honestly thinking it's not that serious. Just put it out there.
Honestly, I can tell you, I've been in that one interview with that guy, and he wasn't even able to put up his camera. You know, like usually he does the same as you. So he does like an interview and both cameras are on, but I think he had problems that day, but he still put it on YouTube. He still put it on Spotify, and all he did, like, he didn't do any editing. He sent me the video 2 minutes after we were done. So he just put like a at the beginning, you know, like kind of music, and then the logo. And then I think something in the end, but that was it. Like, he didn't do any editing to it.
I mean, that's kind of what I do too. I don't really edit out anything, because
maybe the WhatsApp message. Yeah. So sorry for that. Usually I switch it off. Maybe that's a reminder that you have to give to your, you know, interviewees. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that. You said, hold on, were you answering a message?
No, like something was coming in. I don't even know whether you can see that.
No.
Okay, because I'm usually, I switch off WhatsApp, because whenever you get something, you know, the small like preview,
that's
I
only
always
if
think
you're sharing your screen.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Of
Yeah.
course. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to do
No
that.
editing out your
Awesome.
WhatsApp.
Wonderful. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on and telling the viewers about your experience. One more question for you. Where can they find you?
They can find me, best is Facebook.
Okay.
So the Raw You community, it's called. So for the group, and then I think you get automatically to my profile as well. Yeah.
Okay. I will
That's the
put that
easiest
in
way.
the description.
Okay.
I'll check out Anja. Help get to the raw you, the real authentic warrior within you.
Oh, wonderful. And you can't even forget about it. That's awesome. That's a name
It's
that
just,
sticks.
it's there because it's
there.
It's real and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So until
Wonderful.
next
Thank you
time,
so much. Thank you for
question
having
everything.
me, Greg.
No problem. Stick around. I'm going to stop the recording.